Hi, thank you for joining us. My name is Robert Foisey. I am a composer and a producer, and this is our special production of Circuit Bridges Turn Up Festival collaboration. And Vox Novus, I started Vox Novus to produce and present and promote contemporary music and the composers and the artists that make all that music happen. In these challenging times, I realized that I had to take my efforts off the main physical stage and bring concerts and a way for an opportunity for composers and the musicians to present themselves virtually over the web. Um, uh, we have a great show coming to you today. A fabulous performer, Sam Wells, a trumpeter, who has been a pioneer and you know performer extravaganza with electronics. He's a master and a whiz, and some really great composers. And you're going to hear their works. They were selected out of a call for submissions that we had to do this project online. There's lots of workings and mechanisms that happen for these sort of projects that are in the background. Two of my co-collaborators, directors that are helping me are Kay He of the Turn Up Festival, who has been literally instrumental in sort of pushing and let's just say keeping the robust pace that the series is going to have. She's not able to join us today. She's busy off in the electronic sphere doing more stuff. But I cannot say how much we appreciate her help and all the workings there with Turn Up Festival and happening with the sort of the back mechanisms of the series. And another one of my collaborators, who I've been working with also for a very long time, is Mike McFerron, who's part of New Music Engine, and him and I have worked with, on Electronic Music Midwest. Hey, Mike.
Rob, good to see you, man.
Good to see you, dude. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Well, I'm Mike McFerron, and I teach at Lewis University, which is in southwest suburbs of Chicago. I've been involved with many projects with Rob and Kay, including this one, but also Electronic Music Midwest. And this is a really great project, and I'm really excited that we're able to bring this today. I'm really excited to hear Sam Wells play. I think he's just a really amazing trumpeter and electronic composer. And so I'm just really thrilled that he's going to be performing for us later.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. So, so stay tuned. We're going to hear a lot of music from the composers and Sam Wells' performance. And then afterwards, we have all the composers here to join us and here to talk about themselves and answer questions. And Sam Wells is a Los Angeles-based trumpeter, composer, and improviser who creates evocative and narrative multimedia performances. And without further ado, let's hear pieces. The first one we're going to hear is in Retrospect by Valerie Langfield. In Retrospect explores the sound of unaccompanied instrument, its liquid, sometimes silver, sometimes golden colors. beautiful piece. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Valerie. Uh, in our next work is Ditch Planes by David Jason Snow. Ditch Planes is an audiovisual pan to summer, particularly a summer lost to the pandemic lockdown. Wow. Yeah, I have to say that piece is pretty personal for me. I really miss the beaches of Long Island, especially last year. Uh, Next up is Mioritza. It's a Requiem for Rachel Corrie by Alice Shields. This work was composed in memory of Rachel Corrie, who was crushed to death March 16th, 2003, by an Israeli forces bulldozer. She was trying to prevent the demolition of a Palestinian home in the southern Gaza Strip. Very haunting and beautiful. Thank you, Alice and Sam. Our last performance today, before we meet the composers, is A Force of Nature by Patrick McGraw. A Force of Nature is one of the series of pieces exploring the sonic manifestations of the mathematical phenomenon commonly known as chaos. That's awesome. Thank you, Sam. What a wonderful performance. Actually, let's bring Sam on stage. Where are you, Sam? Hey, how you doing, bud?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you do it?
Yeah. As you've probably figured out by now, I play the trumpet. So I'm, as you can see beneath me, trumpeter, composer, improviser. I do a lot of music technology. I'm in Los Angeles. And a lot of my recent work, my own creative compositional work, involves creating kind of longer length multimedia performances. And I kind of try to create pieces that use this multimedia space as a metaphor for environment or location, and then situate myself within that and try to navigate that and to kind of create a storyline from that. Beyond that, I'm an educator. I currently teach at Cal Arts, where I'm also doing my doctoral work in Valencia. And I also still teach at Malloy College on Long Island. Yeah.
Great. Did you recognize that beach in the video?
No, I didn't spend, when I used to live in Brooklyn, we only made it down to the beaches like once or twice. But I mean, generically recognized it, but didn't know the specific one.
And so, so we did this call for works for you to submit. And I guess, there's always that question for a composer, like, oh, my piece wasn't good enough or this and that. Like, if you don't get selected, it's, it's hard for the ego, right?
Of course, yeah.
The pieces you picked are more of for a concert performance, right? It's like a set.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about kind of what I look for in music I want to play. But first off, I'm very empathetic, having been rejected from many things myself. It comes with the territory, and I think we all develop a pretty thick skin for it. One, being rejected I don't think is indicative of anything in particular. But secondly, what I personally look for are pieces that I feel like I get to be myself within, right? That I get to explore, use my own voice as a trumpet player, but also a piece that really feels like it also has its own identity. I know that's pretty vague, but it's true to itself, and I can be true to myself, and where does that overlap? That's what's interesting to me.
Right. Well, thank you, Sam. Truly wonderful performance. And if I can speak for the composers, it's just wonderful to have a musician with your caliber realize these works. Wait, hold on. Why don't we bring in the composers and they can tell you themselves? Hello.
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Why don't we start with Valerie? Valerie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about your piece?
I'm Valerie, as you can see. I'm in the UK. I originally come from London. I now live in Manchester, which is in the northwest of England. And my piece was originally written for a friend of mine who's a trumpeter. He was about to do his final year recital at the Royal Academy of Music in London, and he needed a contemporary piece. And I've known Will for years and years, and we spent a lot of time just talking about it. But I know his sound, and I very much wrote the piece for the sound that Will makes. So I thought I'd make it kind of easy for him to negotiate by having it as for solo trumpet, so that he wouldn't have to worry about getting an accompanist. And I also therefore made it quite short so that it would fit in a program. But beyond that, it was an absolute joy to write for him. I work best if I've got boundaries. So having made the decision, it was going to be for solo trumpet. It was going to be reasonably short. After that, you've got total freedom, and that's absolutely wonderful. I did ask Will what note would he like me to start on, and he said E flat, so that's why it starts and indeed ends on the E flat. And there are parts in the middle where I was exploring textures, so there was a sort of almost a melody in the top, but then an accompaniment underneath, all at the same time. So I was combining textures, and it's not exactly a tone row, but I like exploring semitones and semitone clashes, and that's really where I was coming from. The last section is a little more dance-like. It begins. It's the line is trying desperately to get back up to this E flat and can't quite manage it, and then finally does, and then gets very happy, and carries on to the end. But I very much enjoyed working on it, and it was lovely to hear Sam play it. Thank you so much, Sam. I hope you. Well, I presume you enjoyed it, or you wouldn't have selected it.
I did.
And
yes.
I also think just taking your point about rejection, I think it's important to take on board that just because something isn't accepted, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with it. It just wasn't right for what was needed at that particular time. But I'm very glad that mine was what was wanted. So thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. And let's bring on a composer actually I've worked with a lot, David Jason Snow. Hi, David.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do? And the piece.
Okay. I live in New York. I am a reference librarian and a special collections cataloger at the Juilliard School. And as an ex-trumpet player, I really appreciate Sam's virtuosity. In fact, knowing that Sam was an improviser was really the basis of the score. The score is really a template for improvisation. It could be followed exactly. The only specific instructions I give is that I wanted the trumpet player to play with a harmon mute, with the stem out, and with multi-tap reverb, because I wanted to capture this kind of electric mild sound that I love from my youth, from the late 60s, early 70s. And Sam did a magnificent job at really capturing the kind of ethos of the piece. Really, the Ditch Plains, by the way, is a community in Montauk, in the eastern end of Long Island. And it's a beautiful former fishing community, just pristine beaches and cliffs. And my brother-in-law lives out there, so my wife and I visit him occasionally, and I go out and take a lot of pictures and a lot of videos, and that was the basis of the video. And then enhance the video with changing the speed and saturating the colors to kind of give this hyper real, nostalgic look at summer. And of course, we all kind of missed summer this year. But like I say, Sam inhabited the piece. I mean, he really nailed it. So I'm deeply appreciative for this performance.
Yeah, me too. I'll say that I deeply miss the beaches of Long Island. I grew up there, so I know the beach that you reference pretty well.
Yeah,
in fact.
Beautiful place.
And next in our cast of composers is the wonderful Alice Shields. Hi, Alice.
Hi.
How about you tell us a little bit about your career and what you do?
Yeah. Well, this piece is a piece of requiem and grief, and I guess a lot of us can feel closer to that set of feelings now after this year of suffering for many and difficulty for almost everyone. The piece is meant to be the fact that a trumpeter can play this. First of all, it was written originally for Monique Ugarte, the trombonist, and she managed to, in her helping me write it, create a piece for this incredibly powerful brass instrument, the trombone, which somehow blended with the feeling of softness and grief. But when I saw that there was a chance to rewrite it for trumpet, for Sam, I thought, whoa, even more musically difficult because of the power of the trumpet, particularly its attack sound, even more than the trombone, is there's a reason why it has been a military instrument, because it can penetrate outdoors. So for me, a powerful sound, like a powerful male voice, baritone, bass, to express grief is even more in a way touching than for a soft instrument to express it, because of the power sound that is in the way withheld. So thank you, Sam, and thank you, Rob, and everyone who has put together this quite complex, technically complex program, bringing composers in and out, performances in and out. Suffering is around the world. Rachel Corrie was only one of many people who have tried to help various cultures. We need it now, and as I feel it myself as an American, we need empathy and tenderness, and that's what I believe I was trying to express in this piece. In the middle of the piece, you can hear actually Monique Uzarte's voice, which I put into the piece itself. She recites, and I've had her I changed it a little bit electronically, so she's singing a Sanskrit line, which really means glory to God, despite what happens to any of us, that we cling to life and celebrate life. So I've had the trombonist, or in this case, the trumpeter, try to sing that melody with her through the instrument. So thank you again, and I enjoyed the other pieces too.
Thank you so much, Alice. And I think, really thank you for participating in this project and writing this piece for Sam. And I agree with you on all parts. I think the trumpet is a unique and very poignant sort of transposition for the subject matter. I think one of my missions through music is sort of this to create this intangible connection between people that music speaks for, that we can't normally do through conversation or other different types of arts. And I think that's the empathy that's created in this piece really hits its mark. And finally, we have composer Patrick McGraw. Patrick, come tell us what you're about and your piece, how you like it.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to be here, happy to be part of this program, and to hear the other pieces as well. I'm in Toronto, and as you can see under there, I actually started out in physics, and that had some influence on my piece, which is, so the audio and video are direct mirrors of each other there, in that they're both generated by the same set of three equations that exhibit something called chaos, which is this kind of mixture of predictability and irregularity. So you have these equations describing these three abstract variables evolving in time and tracing out this trajectory in an abstract three-dimensional space, and you're seeing that trajectory in the video while you're also hearing two of those variables at a time as the sound, essentially one in each stereo channel. So everything is directly tied together, and there's an improvisational aspect to the piece, even though it's all written out. It's written out with a certain amount of freedom for the performer. And I sort of wanted it to have the feeling a little bit of an improvisation. And I really enjoyed Sam's interpretation of that. And so I sort of imagined this human performer kind of grappling or interacting with this sort of otherworldly mathematical entity that obeys its own rules and kind of has its own will. And I sort of imagined a human performer interacting with that and trying to find some common ground and some way to find a voice within it, which I think is kind of part of the human condition as well. It's sort of about responding to things that are not quite on our level. Yeah. Again, I'm I was I enjoyed Sam's performance and just hearing different and possible interpretations, and enjoyed hearing the other pieces as well.
Yeah, I think it's just the sort of realm of chaos is well, it's interesting dichotomy of having sort of interpretation and freedom opposed to things that are static and solid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's if we could just like bring everybody into focus here, and I want to thank you all again for being part of this. I also want to really encourage anybody who's watching this live. Like, this is a great time if you had a question for the composers or for the musicians to hit that into your chat and so forth. We would love to answer them. But let me let me ask the composers and the musicians. So here, this is our first venture into this particular series of doing this. Obviously, it's dictated by our current climate and our just where we're at with the pandemic and things like that. And for the unfortunate near future, I don't think it's going to change. What do you think about it? Like, what stuff would you like to see? What things are great? What things aren't? Anybody?
Anybody want to handle that?
Yeah, sure, Alice. What do you think?
I think it's really important to go in the direction in which this concert is taking place, so that, at least for me as audience member, I love hearing the composers and the musicians speak. But what this medium offers that a live concert doesn't is the up-closeness of our faces, and the fact that not only can we see into people's houses, actual composer houses, but it offers another form of intimacy that the concert hall can't, as magnificent as the concert hall and its superiority of sound can be. But at least this medium offers some of that. I believe it will develop even more. I think what, Bob, you're working on, it will probably refine itself in terms of sound resolution. The difficulty, I think, is that all of us out here, both composers and the audience, are listening on a huge variety of sound equipment. And I think that's one thing that will be interesting to see, if maybe there's a way of somehow linking audience into a more uniform listening experience to enhance the sound resolution. Because at least for me, coming from the classical background of Western classical, amongst other classicals, it is the variation and the changes in the parameters of sound that are so precious in carefully created music. And I believe that this kind of technology could grow to that.
Well, and I can tell you, just like starting up this project, I've run into a lot of different people, including, let me also just put my warm felt thanks out to virtual concert halls for helping us and presenting this and helping us tech and so forth. But there are a lot of players out there that are looking to create that sort of true virtual concert hall where you would step in and be able to experience new music in a new way. Any thoughts from anybody else?
Yeah, it seems to me, I absolutely agree with Alice. It's giving us new opportunities. I mean, to be realistic, I doubt if my piece, I mean, when would it have been heard in the, well, actually, having said that, it was played in the States a few months ago, but there really aren't that many opportunities, and this is giving all of us a wider voice, wider opportunities. Where else would you see such an extraordinary range of music and way of writing it, all linked by the trumpet? But where would you see that all together? I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and I really hope to see much more of this kind of thing. The sky's the limit.
Yeah, well, more, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, I just want to thank you. As a producer and a presenter and a composer myself, it's special for me to have everybody sort of jump in and be able to show us their work and participate. And I appreciate all the effort, and I really just enjoy listening to your works, if I can say so.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we will be doing this again, so everybody out there, stay tuned to the internet waves, and we will see you soon. I want to just again thank Sam Wells. What a wonderful performance! It's been a pleasure to be working with you, and I look forward to seeing everybody again.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.